What's up everyone, and welcome to another Bitcoin market update. In these videos you will learn how to use technical analysis to forecast price movements in your favorite cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and others. So let's dive into Bitcoin's chart here on the monthly time frame. You can see that right now it's increasingly looking like we are forming our monthly higher low here. And the reason we think that to be the case is because of these longer lower wicks here. So you see all three of these wicks right now, at least for the time being, are looking like this is going to be an area where we pull up in price. This candle closes in 7 days, so we have basically an hour left for this weekly candle that we're going to look at in a second, and then the monthly candle will close in 1 week from now. So we'll see where this candle closes. Right now it's looking like it'll be likely, potentially, that will be forming a inside bar here on the monthly time frame. But an interesting development that I'll be watching is if somehow in the next week we break below this low. If we break below this low from the previous month of June in the next week, then our monthly higher low will not have been set, likely, because then we'll be continuing to go down, and then we'll see where we go. But if we look at this from a pivots perspective, the support and resistance levels we're looking at from a monthly time frame perspective are going to be this pivot level right here. If we close below this on the monthly time frame, the R1, and then this pivot down here, which is at about 20,700, that's our support and that's our main resistance. If we close above the R1 pivot in the next 7 days, then this R2 will be the main resistance, and that's up at about $46,000. From a weekly perspective, bulls are really putting up a good fight here. Now the interesting thing here is actually is a couple things. One, the higher low that we talked about potentially being set here is looking like it is going to be set with the way that this candle is looking. We're very close to the previous week's high of 34,685. We almost got up there. We missed it by about 160 points. So if we break that high in the next day, then our higher low has already been set, and then we'll look for a lower high to potentially be formed, and then potentially a lower low. And the reason for the lower low is because if we look at this from a perspective of, I'm just going to kind of show you something real quick. So what does this look like to you? This to me looks like a mirror. If we look at this as this is the inflection point here, you can see that we had this crazy run up in price, then right about here, we basically mirrored this price action right here, and now we're potentially going to have this section play out. And that's what I'm watching for right now. Is right now you can see that we had this higher low here, then we came up, formed two lows again, came up, and then came down right here. So we didn't form two lows on this side, but we did in the same speed come over and go down as quickly as we went up here in 2 weeks. And then we had a bounce here, similar to here, bounce, came down, and now we're potentially going to draw down further. We'll see though what happens with the price action in the coming days. But I'll talk about what I'm watching on the 12-hour time frame in a moment. But the main resistance levels here are going to be this R1 pivot up at about 37.7 that we just talked about from the weekly perspective. If the bulls want to regain control, really what they're going to have to do is change this weekly trend. They're going to have to break above this key high and close 2 weekly candlesticks above that. If they do that, then the bulls are back in control, and I would expect to move probably up to this R2 at 46K. But if they do not, and they form a lower high, and they start coming down again, this light blue support zone has already been tested. This is the third test of it. So, another test of it probably won't hold, especially considering kind of the market cycle phase we're in. At this point, it looks like we're developing into a bear market. So we'll see what we get there. From a 3-day perspective, we are currently inside of a resistance level here, which is this red zone. So this red zone right here is this candlestick right here. So this is where we had our bear trend. So if we look at this here, we have high, low, lower high, and then lower low right here below this low. So this level right here where price bounced right here, you see the bounce, is where the resistance lies. Currently we're pushing right through this zone though. So the interesting thing about this zone is what I'm going to be watching is a potential for the price to go right through the, oops, I'm sorry, I grabbed the wrong tool here. The price to potentially go right through this zone and close 2 candlesticks above it on the 3-day time frame, and then come back into it and test it as support for then that weekly higher high that the bulls would need. So that's the 3-day perspective is really this level. That's really the only level I care about on the 3-day time frame. And then if we go down to the daily time frame, this is our other really important level that I'm going to be keeping an eye on now, which is this daily candle from July 18th. So this should have been resistance right here, and the reason for that is because we had our bear trend. So we have a high, low, lower high, and then lower low with 2 candlesticks closing below this key low. So this was a resistance level because this is where we bounced, but once we closed below it and confirmed a bear trend, this should have been resistance right here when we came into it. But you can see we pushed right through this zone very easily, like butter essentially, and now we're about to close 2 candlesticks above it. So now it's going to turn into a support zone in about 28 minutes if we close above it. So that'll be an area for a potential bounce if we do end up coming back to that level. We'll see what we get. But in addition to that, a couple other things on the daily time frame to keep an eye on are this daily pivot level here, which is up at about $35,000. That, to me, probably will hold on the first test, depending on a multitude of different factors. But the reason is because typically, these sorts of pivots, especially after an extended bounce like this, typically hold, considering we've already appreciated in price from the low, and we haven't even set a higher low. We've appreciated off of the low about 18%. So for us to just blow right through this zone, this pivot zone, is unlikely in my opinion. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on there. In addition to that, we also can see the Ichimoku cloud lining up with that same exact area here with the Kijun at about $35,000. So it's really going to be interesting to see how price reacts to kind of that 35K zone in the next, I would say, potentially day here. If we look at this from a lower time frame perspective, let's look at it from the 8-hour. The 8-hour resistance level right here, back here from our bear trend here, high, low, lower high, lower low, has held for multiple tests here. Now this is the 1, 2, yeah, this is the third test of it. So the third test, it's weakening. This level is weakening. Something I'm keeping an eye on is these equal highs up here. So these 2 highs are where we talked about yesterday in yesterday's video, potentially stop losses being above these key highs from people that went short here or potentially even here. So if we go up to these highs, this is a potential area, where the price might reject off of, and that's what I'm keeping an eye on. It's also aligns well with that daily Kijun level as well as the daily pivot level. And so that's something I'm keeping an eye on. And then this is our main support zone down here on the 6-hour time frame. This is from our bull trend right here. So we have our low, high, higher low, and then higher high. And now we've come up significantly, and now we're potentially forming a higher low here. You can see with the longer lower wick of this, of people buying the dip, for a potential move up to wherever we go next, which in my opinion is likely to be these key highs. The other thing to keep in mind is the inverse head and shoulders pattern that did indeed yesterday when we were talking about it, like in here, I believe, played out immediately following the video. As soon as I posted that video, this candle printed, and it was just, I was like, yep, there's your breakout with your clear increase in bull volume. So this pattern's target, if we look at this, we can measure from our head up to our neckline. That's 3190. So our target for that, if we measure that up, 3190 from there is roughly, well, actually it depends, because technically what you could say is, you could say this is the, well, whatever, we'll just do it from that. 3190 is about right here. So it's about 35,600. So that's probably likely where we'll go next, is somewhere around these key highs, or 35,600 is probably, pretty decent as well. So that's currently where price is probably looking to go, in my opinion. So hopefully, this analysis was helpful for you in figuring out how you can analyze price action for yourself. If you'd like to learn some of the foundational concepts that I use to analyze price action, like support and resistance, candlestick analysis, volume analysis, and other things like that, you can sign up to take our beginner technical analysis course that we have on Leutheria.com. There's a link for that in the description below. We're currently running a 20% off special for that, so you can check that out. The other thing to check out is also our Leutheria Signals Discord channel that we released a couple weeks ago. So this is a channel where you can get unlimited 24/7 access to all of the trading ideas that we have, that the Leutheria team has, around Bitcoin and Ethereum. So if you'd like to start trading those assets like a pro, you can join that Discord channel by sending an email to team@leutheria.com. There's also that email address in the description below as well, and then we'll send you the information you need to get started joining the group. We hope to welcome you soon, and until tomorrow, onward and upward.